fellow Southern Cameroonians, fellow Ambazonians, great soldiers of our revolution. Today is the 5th day of the month of March in the year of our Lord 2019. I bring you revolutionary greetings. My dear people, today is a very important turning point in the history of our struggle for freedom. I mark it today because it is today that I'm coming to us all, that I'm coming before you all, so that we should together make this very clear and very important analysis, see where we stand, and determine to forge on, whatever the circumstances. In my last communication, I talked about the overbearing influence of France, the overbearing influence of France on what is happening in Southern Cameroon, on the carnage that is ongoing in Southern Cameroon. We had the opportunity to watch videos of French journalists and French politicians asking questions and make it clear that there are French soldiers who are in La République du Cameroon right now, advising the government to carry out this scourge of annihilation policy on our people. At the moment I talk, they are all over Biya County. Yes, the soldiers are determined that almost every home in Biya County will be razed down. At the moment I'm talking, they are all over Ndian County. They are all over Meme County. They have even ensured for the past 3 or 4 days, and in some places even weeks, that no telephone connectivity is existing there. In areas like Mato and the others, they have not been able to make a single call, even from Nextel. That was a loan company still operating there all this while. And the reason is simple, because they don't want the world to know and see exactly what kind of thing they are doing on our people. Because they are determined to wipe all of us from the surface of the earth. At least that is the first measure that Chief Yaounde, who hails from Ndian County, upon his appointment as Prime Minister, has taken. He needs to make his own offer of blood, because the bloody regime of Mr. Biya will dismiss him or will make his stay as Prime Minister short-lived if he doesn't contribute with the blood of a lot of people from Ndian County. That is why his first move is to make sure that no telephone access, yes, no telephone signals will, be present in a lot of Ndian County, just for him to achieve his own evil designs. My dear people, this tells all and sundry that the challenge before us is not just the challenge of self-aggrandizement. It's not the challenge of me above everyone. It's not the challenge of me or no one. The challenge before us is the challenge of our very existence. Now, in the last communication too, I pointed out that the French, had been so annoyed and so worried that they allowed us, first of all, to prosper right up to this moment with our Anglo-Saxon system of education. And that system of education kept us so alert that we are not as dogmatic and passive like the other people across the Mungo. And so for that reason, they were determined to make sure that they completely wipe out this educational system. And like I said, if your eyes are not open, even as the war is raging on, they are busy on doing every gain we had ever made in terms of protecting our cultural heritage. On the 4th of March, 2019, that was yesterday, Mr. Biya, President of La République du Cameroon, signed a decree to do exactly what I said. They had already transformed the GCE Board into a public utility corporation, which meant that it was no longer just going to be our examination board. It was now a business organization like every other one with a board of directors. And so the intention, like I had pointed out at that time, was to make sure that they would totally Francophonize it, take total control of what still remains the last standing structure that still gave us the quality of education that was even below the standards that we were fighting to raise back once more. And so by that decree, Mr. Biya determined who will be who in the GCE Board henceforth. And if you don't know how they plan to Francophonize it in such a way that you don't even realize it, let me bring you the entire analysis. When you look at it, because during my 19 years of work at CRTV as a journalist, at senior level, I had the opportunity to look deep into a lot of these government structures and to know exactly how Southern Cameroonians were systematically kept aside. If you look at the board of directors of most of the public utilities companies, even if they are based in Southern Cameroon, the majority of the members of those boards are from French-speaking Cameroon. But the head of state doesn't sign a single decree appointing them himself. What do? They say you will have a representative of the Prime Minister's office, a representative of this ministry, a representative of that ministry, a representative of the other ministry. And they know that at the helm of all of those ministries are Francophones. And they know that all those Francophone ministers consider positions of board members as sinecure positions to their loved ones, to their friends, and they consider such positions as positions for political compensation. And so they will always send people very close to them who are all Francophones. And at the end of the day, you find a structure like palm oil plantations located in Dian County, where at least 70% of the board members are Francophones. You find a corporation like the CDC based in Fako County with about 80% of the board members Francophones. You find a corporation like Sonara based in Fako County with about 90% of the board members Francophones. This is what has been prevailing in all the organizations. And today, when you hear or when you read from that presidential decree that the examination executive, that is right in the heart of it, the executive, the particular technical group that will make sure they determine the nature, scope, and structure of the examination, will have in their midst as a statutory member the director of exams at the Ministry of Secondary Education. Of course, the directors of exams at the Ministry of Secondary Education or National Education or whatever in the past have always been Francophones. But for one Mr. Folabit, Matthew Gabila, who at one point was director of exams, and I think that at the time they considered it a misnomer. That was the only time you had an Anglophone as director of exams. And so you are already very certain that that is Francophone number 1 inside the board. And then thereafter, they now tell you that there will be representatives in the board of directors from 1, the presidency of the republic. Of course, that's Francophone number 2. 1 from the prime minister's office. Even the prime minister, who will tell you he is from Southern Cameroons. I think it's just by birth but from all their actions, we really don't consider them as such anymore. He will tell you eventually that he didn't have the powers to choose who will represent the prime minister's office in that board of directors because it will be the role of the secretary general. Because once the prime minister is from Southern Cameroons, the secretary general at the prime minister's office becomes the Superman. So that is Francophone number 3. The representative of the Ministry of Secondary Education would be a Francophone. So you already have a second person from the Ministry of Secondary Education. Although Nalova Lyonga will tell you that, she's a Minister of Secondary Education and so on and so forth. But then no, before this decree takes root, she would already have been ejected from there. And even if she is still there, she may not even have the powers to choose who will represent her in that board. So that is Francophone number 4. You have the representative of the Ministry of Finance. Of course, nobody should even double or doubt around this. That will be a Francophone number 5. A representative of the Ministry of Higher Education. That is for the chief tribalist of that country, Mr. Jacques Famendongo. Hater number 1 of Southern Cameroonians. His representative can only be Francophone. That is Francophone number 6. Then you have a representative of Parents Teachers Associations. Now take note. Here they have not said of Parents Teachers Association of the Anglo-Saxon subsystem of education. No. Just representative of Parent Teachers Association, and that person will be elected. So you will have the majority Francophones coming, dwarf the Southern Cameroonians who are in, and of course that will be Francophone number 6 or number 7. And then representatives of proprietors of private secondary education will be elected the same fashion. That will be Francophone number 8. So at the end of the day, the majority of officials in the board of directors of the Cameroon GCE Board, as we call it, will be Francophones. What is left? Answer with me. What is left? For those of you who still have the guts to call yourself federalists, who still have the guts to call yourselves unitarists, take a look. What are you going to be left with? By day and by night, I tell you that by still continuing to militate in the name of federalists or unitarists, you are simply distracting us from focusing on our avowed and necessary struggle for self-determination, the lone guarantor of our own existence. By day and by night, Mr. Paul Biya proves to you that federalism is not even in his agenda. Not even the so-called decentralized system of governance that he appears to be throwing at the so-called unitarists. That one will not exist. If you don't recognize it now, you will never be able to recognize it. If you don't arise now and begin to reason with all your faculties, you will never be able to have the chance to do so. When they are raising all of the homes that they are raising all over southern Cameroons, when they are burning people alive, they don't care to know whether you belong to the family of a so-called unitarist or federalist. My dear people of southern Cameroons, while Mr. Paul Biya was signing his stupid decree, our leaders, who are in detention, who are in pains, who are in chains, who are living an uncertain future in the dungeons of La République in Kondengi, took upon themselves to do what only people who are truly patriotic, who are truly determined, who truly take the cause of humanity seriously can do. Yes, that they did. They took upon themselves to take a solemn engagement to live free or die. They put it in writing. They named it the cradle for the people of Ambazonia. This will enter the annals of the history of our revolution as a key turning point where people stood, looked at death face to face and said, between living free as a slave and dying as a brave fighter for freedom, we choose death. Oh, how I feel tears fighting to run down my cheeks, but I'm resisting to be a man. Because in this situation, tears will not take us to freedom. Determination, action, real action will. When I read what they wrote, we are done being balanced from one colonial chessboard to another, and assert unequivocally that going forward for Ambazonia, it shall be total independence or resistance forever. This is what I said in my last outing. And thank God, they have not only re-echoed it, they materialized it. They didn't think about the risks involved in sending out such a document. They didn't think about the fact that nasty La République can decide immediately to take their lives. They didn't think about the fact that they also need to leave. They only thought of the fact that future generations of southern Cameroons shall never live in bondage anymore. They only thought of the fact that our dying fathers, mothers, brothers and sisters will not do so in vain. They only thought of the fact that the world needs to know once and for all that the time to take the southern Cameroon's quest for restoration, total restoration of our independence seriously is now more than ever before. They only thought that it is necessary to let the entire world know that we will never give up in this struggle until the last southern Cameroonian is killed. So that is a clear message sent to the world that continue to kill us in the interest of France. Continue to kill us au nom de la République Française. We are ready to be totally wiped out unless you understand that we have to live as free people. It is Babe Ruth who said, you just can't beat the person who won't give up. So this is a message to Mr. Paul Biya. This is a message to France. This is a message to all the soldiers being collected from various countries in Central African Republic to come fight against unarmed and untrained people. That we are a people that will never give up. So don't even ever dream that you will beat us. I want to repeat it. Like Prophet Elijah told the king of Israel at the time, King Ahab, after Israel had gone for 3 whole years without rain, famine was all over the land. And when they had done prayers upon prayers and they had all lost hope, Elijah, after he sent his second man several times from his fasting room to go check and see whether the rainy clouds were gathering, and in return I said, just little seeming rainy cloud, not even as big as can feel the palm of a baby. Elijah saw in it total victory, and boldly and courageously he announced to King Ahab, go, eat, drink, and relax, because I can hear the sound of abundance of rain. Minutes after, Elijah was asking the king to mount his horse and move very fast before the rain catches up with him. But every other person around him saw him as mad, because they didn't believe that anything like rain could come, because they didn't see the clouds. But trust me, it not only rained, but it rained more abundantly than even Elijah spoke about. That is the meaning of faith in what you are seeking. Let us strengthen our faith in our collective resolve to achieve what we so desire, to achieve what we need, to achieve what is so dear to us, which is the total freedom and the independence of Southern Cameroons. The world will learn to take us seriously once we determine to do exactly what has got to be done. Even to some of the most hardened minds against violence, today more than ever before, we are beginning to say, do everything you can to assist these young boys and girls who have said they will not sit back and watch the people decimated without a fight. My dear brothers and sisters, Conrad Hilton says, successful men and women keep moving. They make mistakes, but they don't quit. This is why I'm using this opportunity right now to invite each and every one of us to go to the portal on Eventbrite, where we have created a portal for registration for the upcoming All Southern Cameroons People's Conference that will take place in Washington, D.C. on the 22nd and 23rd of this month. You will go to that portal. You will register to participate in this conference. You will pay a $50 fee. I said in my last communication that we have refused to take funding from any form of interest group. We have refused to take funding from any source doubtful. We want the people of Southern Cameroons to appropriate to themselves this conference, to own it, to sponsor it by themselves, so that when we sit together and look at each other in the eyes and talk, we will be able to tell the world exactly where we stand. At the end of the day, the federalists, the unitarists who will come, will also meet the independentists like me, die-hard independentists that will never be changed like me, to reawaken them, to make them see reason for us to all pull together. Because together, we will fight a better fight. Divided and using dissonant voices, we will be destroyed as a people. Mark that date. Make sure you are part of this conference. A lot of people are still casting some little, I should say a few people are still casting some little aspersions on this conference. But be informed that a broad majority of the people of Southern Cameroons have embraced this conference and are doing everything to be part of it from all over the world. Wherever you can, make sure you be part of this conference. If you are somewhere where you require a letter of invitation to be able to secure a visa to come for this conference, indicate to us. You will be given the opportunity to be at this conference. Don't say it is short notice. Trouble never waits. Pain never waits. This is the time to arise and be part of the discussion that will free our country. My dear people, there are a lot of things going on right now in the revolution. Some will call it disorder. Some will call it mistrust. But trust me, the big and most important thing you need to do is to bring in your voice to help us refocus, recalibrate, is to bring in your voice to ensure that at the end of the day, we come out of the numerous problems that we face in organizing ourselves to prosecute this revolution more stronger than the disorder that appears currently. A businessman was once asked, how did you overcome so many unbelievable problems to become a great success story? Let me share his response with you. And this is taking us towards the end of this communication. He said, there is really no trick to it. There are some troubles that seem so high, you can't climb over them. There are some troubles that seem too wide, you can't walk around them. There are some problems that seem too deep, you can't dig under them. But it is then that you know the way to beat the problem is to duck your head into the problem and wade right through it. Can we run away from the problems before us? Can we run away from talking about the internecine issues that are affecting our society and think we are going to be successful? No, we can't. Put your trust in this revolution. Put your all in this revolution. Devote your time and energy to contribute positively to the success of this revolution. Because I want to tell you now, as my end bit as I go, I want to mimic the President Assad of Syria. When the country was engulfed in a serious civil war, everybody saw the fate. But with foreign assistance and all that, he has been trying. And today he says, and this is the same message I want to bring to us all. Victory is near. Don't quit now, because I hear the sound of victory and celebration. So, my dear people of Southern Cameroon, my dear people of Ambazonia, victory is near. Don't quit now, because I hear the sound of victory and celebration. Hold on, hold out, stay strong, stay glued to the objective. Focus on Biya.